Hi, my name's Daisy. Well, not really Daisy, that's just for this podcast. But I'm not an actor. I am actually a young person with my own experiences of foster care, and I wanted to share something from my point of view. This week's podcast is sponsored by Fostering UK. I've been living with Fostering UK foster carers for several years, and now I'm 18, I've chosen to stay on with them because they're my family. I think people sometimes forget that young people notice a lot more than adults realise. We see what's happening around us, we know when our carers are supported, and we know when they're stressed or struggling. I've seen firsthand the difference it makes when foster carers are properly supported by the people around them. The support I've had, especially with my mental health, has made a huge difference, and I know that's because my carers have had the right support too. So if you're a foster carer who doesn't feel supported, or you're thinking about fostering and want to know you'll be treated properly and professionally, I'd say it's worth looking at Fostering UK. The details of where they cover and how to get in touch are in the show notes.
Hi everybody, how are you? Welcome back to Foster Care Uncovered, episode 27. I can't quite believe it. Oh, we're still here and growing. And thank you so much to our listeners so many of you are foster carers and you are the reason we are here. And we're so grateful that you listen and we're with you every inch of the way. So, welcome. And I think this morning, Sarah, I am really keen to know what's been going on in the news this week, or should I say, what's been unannounced and then re-announced all over again.
Yes, it's a bit tiring, isn't it? Sorry for the absence last week. We had we just couldn't do last week, so we're here anyway. But all good things are worth waiting for. So before we start, I'd like to do what I would call quote of the week from a foster carer. He says, "You are currently keeping me and my fostering pals going. We are shouting yes, yes, yes to so many things, and we debrief after every podcast. We always say we feel like we are having a big chat together." And I think
That's
that's wonderful. We
lovely.
are. So, hello, everybody. We are having a big chat together. And, we welcome all the feedback. These are just our opinions, and some is fact and evidence, but we make very clear the difference. And, we welcome everybody's feedback, positive or negative, even the little trolley people, eh?
Yes.
So, what's going on in the news? Firstly, in the news, except it's not news really. They keep making it sound like it is. Seeking out every last soundbite and spin out of the reforms. You know what my nan would have said?
Well,
It's all fur coat and no knickers.
oh God, my nan would have said that too. Fur coat, no knickers, all spats, no breakfast, that one.
So if you've been following the fostering news over the last week, you might have seen the government, the children's minister, making what was described as major announcements about regional care cooperatives. Now, I had to smile a bit, especially at the videos and stuff, because don't we already know all this?
Yeah.
Anyway, now this is one of those funny things in politics where the same policy seems to get announced over and over again. New headline, new press release, new photo opportunity. Actually, it's the same funding, the same reforms, and the same direction of travel we've known about for quite some time. So,
Different spin.
make of that what you will, except that I think it doesn't matter if you say it 20 times, it doesn't make it true.
No.
So I just want to do a little bit of an explainer on regional care cooperatives, because I can hear some foster carers listening going, oh, what are they? And oh, do they really involve us?
They're called the hubs, aren't they?
Uh,
They're known as the hub.
no,
Oh,
no. There's the regional recruitment hubs.
yeah.
These are the regional care cooperatives.
Well, cooperatives always sounds like it's a bit hippy-dippy,
Well,
isn't it?
let
More
me
about sharing and
explain,
caring.
because this kind of thing affects us all, but you won't be informed of this kind of stuff by your local authority or agency. Firstly, I think, in all honesty, it's because they don't think we're intelligent enough to want to bother our little minds about stuff that directly impacts our role at work and children. And also, to be honest, I've had loads of astounded foster carers contact us who've been confused because their social workers are confused.
Ah, there you go.
The social workers said, "Oh, you've got to join this hub. Everybody's got to join this hub. We have to join this hub." Well, carers are going, which hubs? They're thinking it meaning Mockingbird hubs, but it's not. You don't have to join Mockingbird hub. Just say no to that. The things that have to be joined are the local authorities having to join up to these regional commitments. But the social workers are getting really confused between Mockingbird, regional recruitment hubs,
I'm
regional care
confused.
cooperatives, exactly. And I'm I don't like to be cynical, but maybe confusion is part of the strategy.
So you signed
Because
up to
then the
anything?
little people don't have to, be involved in it, do they?
What, little foster carers?
So, in simple terms, instead of every local authority trying to recruit foster carers, commission placements, and commissioning placements means when the placement team call you or call you get a call from your agency saying we've got a placement for you. And yes, I'm using the term placement here. We know that's not what we want to speak to in front of our children. It's just a statutory term, so I'm using it here. We don't think children are placements. So before anybody writes in, we're foster carers ourselves. So, um, yeah, so they actually think that it is commissioning placements where the commissioning team will choose whether it goes in-house. If they haven't got anything in-house, then they commission a private agency to do the placement. So, that's quite an important part of it. Anyway, they want to plan services, groups of council coming together across the region and do it collectively, which they think will be more efficient. The
Have
thinking
they not
is
heard of the failure of committees?
The thinking is if they pool resources, I think that they'll better recruit better, plan better, buy placements better, and stop private providers making excessive profits. Yeah, I know. On paper, it's
Okay.
actually quite a sensible ambition. But I don't think many would argue with the councils working together more effectively if that's what's going to happen. However, here's the thing keeps going around in my head. The ambition behind the regional care cooperatives and the regional recruitment hubs, which I will call RCCs and RRHs from now on, such a mouthful, it's understandable. Better collaboration, blah, 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 blah. My concern, though, isn't with the intention, but with the assumption that changing the structure will automatically change the system. To me, it feels a bit like, I don't know, where they're trying to solve a leaking boat by building a bigger boat with the same holes, the same crew, just simply more passengers. Larger structures do not fix the underlying problems. I think that's my point. They just
Yeah.
amplify them. They just make the problem bigger somewhere else. So the real question is whether the challenges facing fostering are structural at all. Are foster carers leaving because councils haven't collaborated enough? Are they leaving because they feel they're not? They're leaving because they feel undervalued, unsupported, and unheard. Regionalisation doesn't by itself address that culture, the power imbalance between carers and services, the long-standing concerns about rights, support, allegations, recruitment, retention. Many of the support models are now being expanded nationally that have existed for years. Mockingbird. Um, they're regularly described as evidence-based. I really wish they wouldn't keep doing that because their evidence is so weak. I even questioned the government on it, who said, "Oh, I know it's not that strong, is it? It's just the only evidence we've got." So,
Oh, that's shocking. Come on,
no.
guys.
Um, they undoubtedly benefit some children in foster families, like 4%,
Mm.
but they weren't, they now, all the support that the RCCs are putting into place, calling it support of foster carers, is Mockingbird. And that is not support of foster carers. It is no way scaling up support like we need it to be. After decades of these reforms, restructures, pilots, I don't know. We have to ask ourselves whether we've confused activity with progress. Bigger organisations, regional commissioning, and new governance arrangements, well, they might improve efficiency, but they're not going to solve that workforce, crisis unless the policymakers are prepared to listen to the front line.
Yeah.
So anyway, so basically what we've got is a bigger version of the same thing. Same people, same voices, same ideas, same system, same leaders, same echo chamber that got into this crisis in the first place. Only now they're grandly suggesting that they're the saviors. Now, I wrote a piece on Substack, and John Pierce, our friend, John Pierce OBE, a brilliant interviewee from a couple of podcasts ago, he said in reply to my Substack piece, it was just basically saying, you know, we're just regionalizing the problem, we're just making the problem bigger.
Yeah.
He said, structures cannot solve the problems in the system, but they can be an enabler to change if leaders at national, regional level are brave enough to genuinely commit to establishing a new system that's fit for purpose in 2026 rather than one designed for a world that no longer exists. Just scaling up something that is not currently working will fail. And I think he's nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I get
Um, and I think the big word here is brave. What we need is some brave leaders, and we haven't got any.
No, we've got very worn out, tired.
I know they're very worn out and tired, and they're being knocked back by the government. I
Yes.
think, the children's minister saying he'll come around and, sort them out if they don't fall into
Really? Well,
line.
like
That's
sort of like
one
a
leader
mafia.
told me anyway. But
Um,
anyway, what do you think, Louise?
oh, I don't know.
Mm,
I I genuinely don't know. I mean, I'm listening to you and I find it all rather depressing. I find it the same old, is it same meat, different gravy? I would love to think that by now our the brains of our leaders showed some authority and again the word brave and actually did the right thing. What I struggle with is a consistent failure that goes round and round like a carousel, and we're expected to accept it. I also feel in all this that the foster carers are being dumbed down yet again. That I mean, if I'm honest, personally, I am getting really quite tired and fed up of people who have never fostered, not even been a social worker, even never been in the care system, never been a foster child, never done any of those things, pretending to have a sensible view on how to make it improve because they can't, because this whole system is built up on nuances. Every bit of work we do is layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of feelings, emotions, and lies. And I don't mean that they're all malicious lies. I mean the fear of telling the truth or the ability and know-how to tell the truth anywhere in this, from the children's voice right up to senior levels, seems to be something that we all struggle with. So it's very hard to try and improve something that is like an eel. It just keeps shape shifting because we can't quite nail it. And what we have nailed is that we can't, what we know is that we cannot continue. We cannot continue this way. And I feel, that I mean, I don't know whether it's because you and I, Sarah, have been doing this for quite a long time now. And a lot of the stuff that we raise on here, you and I were at the front of over a decade ago.
yes.
We were at the front of this, trying to warn the great and the good that this was coming, that, and it still hasn't left me on the other week when we on the podcast that in Scotland that 33 senior social work managers are taking children home with them because there are no foster carers. I don't know how much more of a crisis this has to be for these people who somehow get funded to talk on our behalf about a system they know not of because they're not in it. You only know this system if you're in it. And I think that is fundamentally the problem. And again and again and again, we come back to the same thing. And I don't know. I ask our foster carers what you think. Are you like us? Do you think, come on, guys, this is about time you really stop mucking about and we actually started sorting this out? Because every day we are injuring morally, physically, and emotionally children and more foster carers. So that's my view on it, Sarah. It's pretty hardcore this
Yeah,
morning.
but I'm listening to you, and as you can see, I'm trying not to go because
Yeah,
but I'm nodding all the time. I
yeah,
think, I think these things have to be said, and I
yeah.
don't think we're the only ones thinking it.
No, we're
Um,
not.
do you know what? Before I go on to the next bit of news, do you know what it reminds me of? It's the two character things that, or whatever you like to call it, that I hate the most when it's a mixture of arrogance and ignorance.
What's that?
We've got arrogant people
Yeah, clearly.
presuming, through their ignorance, presuming they know what everybody needs. I mean, you saw it, well, we sent it to each other, didn't we? Saw that Foundation's having a little jolly together, and there was Josh McAllister and all the powers that be. And we said, oh, look, it's the deep state.
Well, it feels like the deep state,
Does
doesn't
feel like the
it?
deep
Like,
state all
who
having a little jolly
are they?
together. Who are they? Yeah, but they
Who
seem to be
are they? What
running the show. That's a
are
good
they?
podcast title, isn't it? The Deep
Yeah, the
State.
deep
Oh,
state.
we'll get the little trolleys coming out for that one, won't we? Of the
Little
trolley.
waggly
Right.
fingers.
Yeah.
Naughty Sarah,
Okay.
naughty Louise.
Next bit of news. Okay, so we've Foster Wiki have been working on the behind the scenes with the government, just one-on-one, Foster Wiki and the policy teams, on this rewrite of the national minimum standards. Now, hundreds of other people have been too. To be fair to the government, they have, and I've always liked the policy team. We've met with them a lot, haven't we? And I just
Oh, they're
genuinely think
jolly. They're
they
nice
mean well, yeah.
people.
But they've they decided that the standards need rewriting. They were archaic to say the least. But the reason we want to do this on here as well is because they matter. Although, of course, the big question is accountability, but we'll get onto that. But I think that it's really important here. Listen, everybody. This is, and we'll put the consultation in the show notes. This is an open public consultation. So everyone, a single one of you, can read the national minimum standards. Don't worry, Louise. I've done it so you don't have to.
Oh, thank God for that.
You know, but you can kind of see from the contents which is which and scroll through. So, but your opinions are really important. And do you know what? They are listening. They have listened. This document, I'll give them that. They have listened. And
Yeah,
I it's hard because I can hear throughout this document, obviously the children come first. Nobody will argue with that. But they have tried to please everybody. In a way. But so each standard is kind of a little bit of pleasing and for the foster carers, and then a little bit of rolling back for the providers. So kind of this juxtaposition of it's quite similar to what was before, but it's rewritten in better language. Having said that, there are some important bits. Now, we'll do some more in it next week when I've really gone through it with a fine tooth comb. But we had a lot of input into, especially the 22 and 23 standards, which are on allegations. Now, this set of minimum standards is written in a completely different way. But also, I will say that anybody who joins Foster Wiki on the helpline, if you're whatever you're having problems with or issues with, there is a standard in here for now that we can use for most things, and we are the ones that will go through them so you don't have to, and we can relate those standards, professional standards, to what the issues you have, and make sure that things are sorted out. So there's a quick look just briefly at some of the allegation stuff. I'll just do it briefly. And then I want to do it a delegated authority next week as well, because,
yeah.
I'm not sure that they haven't gone the whole hog and said it's automatic, which would be an absolute disaster for foster carers. Can you imagine? They go, oh, yeah, you've got delegated authority, it's automatic. And then something happens. Well, you shouldn't have done that. Well, it was delegated authority. Oh, no, that wasn't covered by that. Now, the other thing
Yeah.
is with delegated authority, there's also always already a perfectly good delegated authority tool. When Josh McAllister says we just want carers to be able to have their children's haircut, they already can.
We already
There
can.
is
We
a
have.
perfectly good delegated authority tool that goes through all the decisions, doesn't take very long, and
Yeah.
that's with the at the point of placement, the point a child comes into your home, you go through the delegated authority tool. I'll put the Foster Wiki delegated authority in the show notes, which also has that tool in it. Now, what's happening is that tool's not being used. So Josh McAllister is wrong. Children can have their hair cut by
They
carers.
have done. I mean, it's
We
always,
have done for years.
yeah,
You just
we've
need to
always
have
done
the
it.
permission on a very good, thorough tool that just takes, a bit of time at the point of placement. Now, you don't need a whole new national minimum standard and all this sort of kind of virtue signaling around. We want carers to be able to do what, when we've already got a perfectly good tool for it. I
It's
don't
clickbait,
understand.
isn't it?
You can't. Are they saying you can have automatic delegated authority because it saves the social work a bit of time filling in the form? But hang on a minute, if anything does go wrong, we can still come back on you and make an allegation against you of a decision you've made.
You can't win
So,
either way. It just feels like it's political clickbait that they're going to focus on things that are actually okay, because they're
I
low
mean,
risk.
there's only a certain amount we can do because we don't have PR ever, parental responsibility. It's
Yeah,
always divided between the council
yeah.
and the parent, whichever way, depending on whether they're Section 20 or full care order, etc. But trying to pretend that we do have some kind of parental responsibility, and Josh McAllister using that as a look at us being so fair to foster carers misreads the statutory regulations and our ability around PR.
Yeah.
So I'd say thank you very much. We already have a fantastically good delegated authority tool. Can you just make it a standard that all social work professionals are, committed to filling in the standard form?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to this quickly, briefly. So we were involved quite big, in the allegations bit, as were the NUPFC, and obviously this is a huge document, lots about the children as well. And we go into it a little bit every week, but here's some of the new bits in the allegation sector. Kind of new and old, but some of it's just made a bit more plain, I guess. Services should be clear that in most cases, problems arising in foster families can and should be resolved through support and supervision. And when a concern arises, the carer should be supported to reflect, improve, strengthen safety inside and outside the home and to repair the relationship. So what they're saying here is stop with the knee-jerk reactions and using allegations for reasons that you shouldn't. Services should work to protect a child's enduring relationships, including increased support for the fostering family. So what they're saying there is don't keep taking children away.
Yeah.
Okay. A concern or allegation, and these are all things that we wrote the standards ourselves and gave them a long document about why and how and thing and what and examples of what does happen because those things are. Concern or allegation may be raised for many reasons. It is approached with an open mind and no assumption that it is either true or untrue and is looked at thoroughly and impartially. I know, but it's stop it. Trying to be I'm being the grown up
Oh,
here. I'm being the grown up. I'm being the policy person.
you be the policy person. I'm being the foster carer
I
laughing.
know, but it was never
Facebook.
actually written before. But what the interesting thing about it being written, Louise, is also a mission that it happens.
Exactly.
We've not had that before, so we'll take. Can we take little wins?
Well, that's a teeny weeny one, but I'm
Stop
having it.
laughing.
Yes.
It's gonna get worse, isn't it? So hold your hat on. The service has a clear process for assessing any concern raised about foster care and deciding how it should be addressed. Service should take the proportionate approach to any issue raised. Proportionate. This is coming up a lot in this. Where an investigation is needed to establish what happened, a meeting is held with all the children who know the child best. And then it says, and with the carer.
Cracking. So all these people that know the children.
Classic, isn't it?
Oh my
All
goodness.
the, I know.
An hour,
Hardly know them usually.
please.
And
Oh,
the carer. I
what
have to laugh at that
far
one.
land are they in,
Oh,
honestly?
God. Standards of care concerns are addressed promptly and constructively through supervision and support. Well, that was like before, and it should be like that. They're not allegations. They shouldn't go to panel, etc.
Yeah.
And then he says at times concerns of will be signs of burnout or life crisis, and the carer needs supporting through them, i.e., not deregistered. The carer can raise concerns about the process, including if they feel the panel is not independent of the service, and they should have an independent review of the final decision. So that's quite big.
That's quite big, but what do we mean by
I
independent?
don't know. We'll have to kind of.
Does someone
I
next door?
in my response to these things, I want some of this ambiguity slightly ironed out. But of course, this is what I mean by trying to please everyone.
Yeah,
However,
yeah,
at the end of that bit, it says
yeah.
standard of care concern can in itself lead to the review of an approval and to deregistration. It does not have to reach the threshold of significant harm for a carer's approval to be ended or amended.
Hey, can you explain that to me again,
Well,
please?
basically, they're saying that standards of care should be done in support and supervision and treated differently to an allegation. Then at the end, they're saying, um, but hey, you can still use a standard of care to deregister care if you want, and that it doesn't even have to reach the threshold of harm for you to deregister a carer.
You just might not like them.
You just might not like them. You know what I mean?
Like the
It's a
hair.
complete contradiction of what they've just said, which I
Oh,
will be pointing out to them.
oh,
Then
please.
then it goes on about keeping to time scales, keeping relationships. It does say payment of allowances and fees are to continue during a formal
Oh,
investigation.
that's a good
Oh, no,
thing.
wait, I haven't
Oh,
finished.
hang on. All right, I'm poised.
Although
Although,
whether a payment continues is kept under regular review. Taking account of how long the investigation takes and if the police are involved, you might want to continue the need for continued payment.
what does that mean?
Well, in other words, payments of allowances and fees must continue through a formal investigation, except if you don't want them to.
Which they won't, will
And
they?
also, let's think about it. If they're taking too long and the police are involved, it's hardly the carer's fault. Why should they suffer and have their pay taken away?
Oh,
Because the police don't consider it a priority, because it usually isn't. And the social workers are dragging their heels. How
or
can
on
that be?
holiday, or it's Christmas, or you get this in
Well,
November.
so it's
Drag
basically, do you see what I
January.
mean about this ambiguity about da, 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 da. But anyway, do what you want. It's. So then we get on to a bit about recording. The service's response and outcome recorded and held in a way that allows patterns to be identified across the service over time. The service monitors those records for patterns and acts when the patterns suggest action is needed. Do you know what that means? Yeah, yeah. Basically, what that means is if you want to dig up old shit, do by all means. Anyway, I'm not going to hang about on these.
Oh,
Also, one thing it did say is that carers should be able to access every record that they've made during an allegation, which means you can't knock them off charms.
oh,
Um,
really?
so yeah,
That's progress, isn't it?
yeah,
That's
there's a few things, they should be kept informed of progress. We know all of that.
basically it's a
And
tiny.
panel members, lastly on this one, panel members received sufficient training to contribute effectively to standard of care discussions in reviews and deregistrations. Of course, panel members are rarely foster carers.
No.
They're accountants and solicitors and odd bods from completely unrelated professions because
Yeah,
that's really helpful, isn't it?
really good to know.
So,
Yeah, I've sat in front
so
of.
anyway, I think we're off to a break now, aren't we?
Oh, are you done before I lie down in a dark room? Because
Yeah.
I can't say on here what I'm really feeling.
Yeah. Well, we're off to a break now,
Yeah,
so
let's
we'll
go
see
to
you in a
break.
minute.
Bye.
Hi everybody, Sarah here. This is an advert for Foster Wiki. Now, every single day carers are reaching out to us on a helpline, many experiencing difficult situations or issues, all of them and all of you carrying the enormous responsibility for children who've experienced trauma. Now, they contact us for lots of different reasons, but honestly, we can help with nearly everything. And the most important thing, of course, is we walked 1,000 miles in your shoes. Foster Wiki was founded not as an organisation, a charity or a profit-making anything. It was founded by carers for carers because we knew what you needed. Our people are all experts in all the things they need to be experts in, apart from fostering, safeguarding systems, legislation, etc. The whole 9 yards. So we keep carers caring. We work with you so that you can keep caring. Join today and experience a kind of support that you did not even know existed. Trust me. The link is in the show notes, and I'll speak to you all again soon. Thank you. Bye. Welcome back, everybody. Right, the second half, we want to get into something pretty controversial. Put my teeth back in. This is a big word, but we've decided to include it because we truly believe that this is going on, and we'll explain why. So what is that word? Exploitation.
Huh?
Yeah, so this is about the exploitation of foster carers. And I can imagine some reactions already. People say it's too strong, inflammatory, unfair, simply designed for us to create controversy. God forbid. But before dismissing the word, it's worth looking at actually what it means, because there's different degrees of exploitation. Exploitation is defined as treating someone unfairly or using a situation to your own advantage, particularly where there is this is dictionary, by the way, particularly where there is an imbalance of power or where someone's vulnerability is being taken advantage of. That sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
So this isn't a conversation suggesting every person within fostering is deliberately exploiting foster carers. That's not the answer. What argument, sorry. The question we've got is whether this system can become exploitative. It's whether the structures, cultures, power imbalances are creating a situation where one group increasingly carries responsibility, risk, increasing cost, while having very little influence over the decisions that affect them. Okay. And a major one for me, it is don't shout out if you think they're being exploited when they just, when they just leave. They don't shout that out, they just leave. And it's why are they easily exploited? There's a lot of things that we're going to cover, and it's just part one this week. But the major thing is people shout out, oh, just leave fostering if you think you're being exploited. People, how many people turn around and go, oh, if you don't like it, just leave. Well, actually, carers don't leave. And there's one very, very big reason for it, and that's the children.
Yep.
And they don't want the children to suffer being taken away from loving homes. They often very, very love them very much, whether on permanence or short fostering. They care about them, their outcomes. And actually, that is part of the exploitation bit. It's emotional blackmail and control. And sadly, we see that far too often. So very briefly, if we're looking at the history of fostering, something quite significant happened. It didn't begin as a complex system of contracts, commissioning structures, inspection frameworks and all that lot, and compliance processes and organizational layers. It was much closer to a community-based care. And I think you've said that before, Louise, where people opened their homes, supported children, were trusted through relationships and local knowledge. But over time, and I've said this so often, every challenge and every crisis, every review, every policy response added another layer. Regulations increased, standards increased, oversight increased, new structures developed around fostering with commissioners, consultants, agencies, support organisations, management systems, all became part of an increasingly professionalised sector. There's nothing wrong with that because it does make sure vulnerable children, looked after high standards. There's lots of accountability and safeguarding. But here where it gets difficult, whilst it evolved for everybody else, it didn't evolve for us. We are still treated like that family-based local care or whatever. And all the stuff's been put in place, but no rights for us. Nothing's changed. We're treated the same, just voluntary individuals that are easily disposable. And that's where the system starts depending on that goodwill to compensate for its pressures, failures, lack of capacity. We have to ask whether that goodwill is being expected or is it being exploited. That's why we're having these conversations. There has often been an assumption that those with the least power will continue to carry the most responsibility because historically they have.
Mm.
That the consequences are now becoming impossible to ignore. We're deep in crisis. Carers have had enough. They're leaving. Trust is damaged. Morale's low. So we're going to explore that exploitation and how it has become embedded within our system. And what's even more sad, Louise, is become normalised.
Yeah,
So over to you.
yeah.
Where do we think? Where do we think the exploitation begins?
Well, when we talk about exploitation and fostering, I think it doesn't start the day something goes wrong, does it? It starts much earlier than that, right at the point where someone first walks through the door, doesn't it? The first bit of
Mm,
interest,
mm,
the first time you raise your arm or you step forward to foster, the exploitation actually begins. Because the recruitment campaigns are built on genuinely positive messages, and rightly so, because fostering can change a child's life, and that is true, but it can also destroy children, and that is true too. But sitting alongside that message is usually another quieter one about support, about allowances, about what life as a foster carer will actually look like. The trouble is is almost every carer I've ever spoken to describes discovering a very different reality once they're approved. It's like I have friends who said they courted me. My husband, was really lovely. We were brilliant. He was fantastic until we got married. That's what it feels like. I can't tell how many women. I was out
Yes, the
last night actually,
honeymoon
which I'm a
period.
bit tired today. Yeah,
We're back
they,
to the
they were
cult
wooing
stuff
and
as
wooing.
well.
Yeah, yeah, and
Mm,
then the wedding rings on, and it's like,
mm.
where's my dinner? So fostering turns out to occupy this strange, unregulated middle ground. It's enormous responsibility for us, and sometimes I think we really do suffer from the weight of responsibility, particularly at the weekends. I know this sounds crazy when you have absolutely zero support,
Mm.
only out of hours. But almost none of the protection pay or professional recognition that would normally come attached to the level of responsibility of a job like this. So we have all the responsibility and no protection. Where else does that happen? I don't think it does. You won't find another job where you're trusted with a vulnerable child's entire well-being and then handed a leaflet instead of a contract, which is what we get, isn't it? We get 3 days of skills to foster, if which is the standard. And everyone thinks that's acceptable. And we don't even get a contract, we get an agreement. So we get a lot of leaflets and no contract. So the
Well, it
question I
is
keep coming back
the
to
law,
is,
actually. Can I just come in there, Louise? Because just a quick one.
yeah,
The law has recognised in several high courts now that the fostering agreement is a contract. Okay, so,
apart
but
from the local authority,
yeah, who
they have
pretend it isn't.
recognized
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes, they're in La La Land again, aren't they? They've got
Mm.
their hands over the ears, go, no, it's
Mm.
not. It's still an agreement, but in law. And I think foster carers, if you're listening to this right now, there's your power.
Mm.
Sarah, will you drop something in at the end after that about how, the High Court judges are now saying that it is recognised as a contract and not an agreement?
Yes, I will.
Because there's the power. Yeah, that'd be really great. Thank you. So the question I keep coming back to is, are people given an honest picture of the role before they sign up? And I'd say no, we're absolutely not, because by the time most carers realise the gap between the brochure, the marketing, and the reality, they're already, as you said, emotionally invested, financially committed. And most of us leak our personal finances when we foster. I had someone today, I was on a Zoom the other day, yesterday, in fact, with a guy that said, I'm thinking of fostering. And he was really rich. And he said, I've got the money, I can afford to do it.
Mm.
So you
Mm.
need to get people are now thinking you've got to be financially able to afford to foster. We're making this so easy for them, aren't they? And then we'll pay for you to treat us badly. And looking after a child who needs them to stay is something important. That's what we do. So we're there, we sign up, and then we get these children, and then because we're good people on the whole, we don't want to fail them. That's not really a choice
That
anymore, is it?
is, for me, the definition of exploiting somebody.
Yes, that's a trap. We've been trapped and
Yeah.
by our emotional exploitation. And
Yeah, and also don't forget as well, the reality is 64% of carers are full time. So most of them have given up. I did. I gave up a very good job with the NHS,
yeah,
managing in child and adolescent mental health as a psychotherapist and working with children. I would never, after a few years, I would never get that position back.
no, and I think the finances is something that I equate it to this because we're nice people on the whole. We feel embarrassed that we haven't got the personal finances, magic, endless money tree.
Shame, we're
Finance,
shamed. Mm.
yeah, because we're ashamed that we aren't millionaires. And then the expectation is, we said at the beginning, you have to be financially independent. But then how can you be financially independent if you're giving up your income streams to look after children on a tenuous kind
So
of,
it's that kind of exploitation is kind of like it's like subtle, isn't it? It just weaves its way in. You start on one premise and then it
yeah,
slightly changes into another, and then
yeah,
you realize you're not getting funded for this or funded for the other. It's just,
it's a
I
horrible awakening.
yeah, I'd like to talk about it. I think it's a system built on foster care dependencies. One of the biggest questions we need to explore is how much of the care system depends on foster carers absorbing the things that are difficult, costly, and complicated. It absolutely uses that to the nth degree, doesn't it?
Yes, yes,
The foster home becomes part of the infrastructure. At
yeah.
times it's like the blooming social services offices, isn't it, our home?
Well, our
And don't
homes are,
forget the family home and running it, so it becomes, part of the infrastructure. The car, the
yeah,
time, the
yeah,
emotional energy, and the flexibility of carers to become essential parts of delivering care. Of course, allowances exist because fostering has costs, but most carers would argue the reality of those costs go way beyond what's recognised. Again, that's
yes,
exploitation. The issue is that the gaps do not disappear; they simply get absorbed by foster carers and their families. And also they're almost, they rely on carers' shame that they
yes,
can't afford to do the right things with their children,
yes,
get them into debt. They don't
yes.
say, let us help you because you need
No.
to be able to do those and you
How
can't
many
afford it.
how many foster carers use their own credit cards to cover
Yes, they
holidays
get
and
a little shame
birthdays?
because also don't forget you must treat foster children like other normal children. Other normal children have branded clothes, they have iPhones, they have all sorts. We're expected to fund all of that. So, carers are committed to children and they carry those gaps because they don't want the children to suffer. But that commitment also creates a situation where the system relies on that goodwill, exploits it rather than properly addressing those issues. I'd like to uh, give you an example as well, which is a pretty fun one. I received a message recently from a foster carer who asked to remain anonymous because they wouldn't feel safe sharing this publicly. But they told me a child in their care had caused significant damage to their home and property, including windows, including broken windows, damage to walls, doors, carpets, belongings, and outside areas. They also had damage to their vehicles. The local authorities' first response were to suggest they claim on their own insurance. The foster carers claimed on
Yeah.
their. The carers said they couldn't do that because they feared becoming uninsurable in the future. The damage is still unresolved. They're thousands of pounds out of pocket, and we're, trying to help. And they said, you know what the excuse was not to pay. This is so bad. Um, the reason not to, the child's behavior is just an expression of their trauma and unmet needs.
And
I know, and
and
what is that even? That doesn't
this is
remove the responsibility of the local authority placing the child to support the care and cover those costs. It just is. The two don't go together.
no, it's a bit insane, really.
But it's almost part of that shaming thing. Also, they also question whether foster care is expected to absorb it. Can I just say one thing as well? I think this is a bit of a stitch up. And before you go, because I know we've only got 5 minutes left, but here's a bit of a stitch up, I thought. So it does involve my favourite organisation. Sorry, my plugs come out. The Fostering Network, but and Foster Talk as well. So what's happened is the local authorities try to make foster carers cover the insurance burden. Now
Yeah.
it's the corporate child, so the local authorities have responsibility, legal responsibility, to cover the damage their corporate children do. But no, because carers are exploited, because carers are vulnerable, they try and pass that cost on to the carer and try and argue it if you like. You've always got a climate of fear and allegations hanging over your head. So what happens is the fostering network come along and they're bought by the services are bought in by the local authorities to support their carers. So what does the fostering network do? And Foster Talk, they partner, which means they're making money out of it, with, I don't know, the mortgage something and Aviva and stuff, to create a special expensive insurance for carers that cover malicious damage by foster children.
Well,
So the fostering network, instead of campaigning to ensure that every local authority holds their responsibility of paying for the damage their children do, oh no, they set up another insurance which they make, I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure, commission out of by selling a product to carers to make them insure against this damage.
but okay then. So if a foster child is in a social worker's car and they kick the glove compartment and they smash the window, is the social worker covered by the local authority or
Of
the
course, yeah.
organization insurance? So where's they're
Well,
shunting.
they'll say because we're self-employed, of course, again, won't they?
But if I'm self-employed, then where's my freedom to go and
I
charge
know
and
exactly,
then
but
work for
also
whoever?
it's a moral question too, isn't it? It's morally right, never mind legally right, to pay for damage children do. Now, this carer in particular reckoned because it went on, there was damage to one car's sawn now because it was so badly damaged, £10,000 worth of damage at least.
Reeve.
Now, you know, and she's held that child throughout
Wow.
because they, believe it or not, they love the child. Not believe
Yeah.
it or not, but they do love the child. And of course they know it's out of trauma and everything. But that should not excuse the
No,
local authority, and it should not allow our support organisations to make money out of us by creating an insurance that should be the responsibility of the local authority. I mean, who are they working for?
well, this makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean,
Mm.
we've got to be the most exploited workforce
I
there.
know. Before we've end, I'd love you to give me some examples as well where you think we're
Yeah. Yeah,
exploited.
well, I've been working on my own little list here because I could do this all day, if I'm honest. Allowances and fees that haven't kept pace with the cost of living, especially now when everything from energy to food has gone through the roof. Let's be honest, one carrier bag of food is costing on average 40 to 50 pounds. You know, what's going on here? And these children do eat. We're used as unpaid taxi services. Our cars take the mileage and depreciation, the wear and tear, and the on the rare occasion mileage is actually paid. Now, Fostering UK are really prompt with their mileage, I have to say, thank you very much. But we've been in other situations where we've had to chase people for mileage, and it's just demoralizing that we're reduced to that. Where's the respect for
Or
the
you
work?
have to do 200 miles a week before anybody pays for anything over that. We are
Absolutely.
used for transport. We're social services, children's transport, basically, out of
Yeah,
our own pocket,
they've
out of
shifted it
the
that way.
allowances.
They've shifted, it's crept in, hasn't it? All this stuff,
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the clothing allowances that stretch to supermarket-owned brands or Primani, and Primani is not that cheap anymore. Um, but heaven help you if you actually shop there, because then you're told that you're not treating your
Yeah.
child the same as your birth children, and it's like, oh, and on it goes. And then we're put in that emotional position that your child isn't dressed properly, and the one child gets teased for not having the same labels as the friends. You can't win either way. You literally cannot win. And this is what I'm saying is that, Lloyd and I were discussing this the other day, is that our pockets have got holes in them because the system does no matter how much money they think they're giving you, it still doesn't marry up with the real cost of living. And the cost of living is insane at the moment. Insane. And this hasn't moved at all. Let's talk about the tech. There's the big one. The
Yeah.
iPads, the phones, the data, the lot. We quietly expect to come out of our own pockets, which they do. We sort out all the insurance, we sort out everything. And there's nothing left. And pocket money, oh, that can be interesting. We're quite generous with pocket money. We probably have always added a bit more, particularly with savings. We've always added a little bit more than what was expected. But if you've got a teenager, the allowance of £10 or £15, won't get them diddly squat. So if you want them to go, you cannot let a teenager out the house without money for their own safety. If they get
Mm.
stranded, if they get stuck, if they get hungry in this heat, they need a drink. So that tots up to 30 quid. And then you got the summer holidays coming. And
Yeah.
heart just goes out to every foster care that's got young children. At least when they're teenagers, they don't get up. So half the day is, you're costing it out, aren't you? Oh, if they're in bed till midday, that means I'm only having to pay. That's how you think as a
Yeah.
foster carer, but you got little children and going places to, I mean, fish and chips. What's that? That's like £12.
25 quid for two people
Yeah,
last time we
you
had it.
know.
I said to my husband, what's this? Seafood blah blah on the bank account. He went, that's our fish and chips. I went, no, that can't be right. He said, when did you last buy fish and chips? It's the whole thing, the ice cream, that everything's hideous, but
Yeah.
also the expectation on foster carers of where they take children. Nothing's free anymore.
No, I mean, we're expected to take them on holiday. That can cost thousands of pounds unless you want to go and stay in a caravan somewhere. And sorry, that's not my idea of a holiday. We're expected to give the children the same experience as our children and their peers. But, let's be honest, and a lot of our foster children gravitate to children like themselves as well that have probably come from poorer backgrounds. But I'm not a
Yeah, we
Butlins
got, don't
kind of.
forget the iPads, the iPhones, or the
The
equivalent, the
cost,
credit,
Sarah,
the
is
phone credit,
SIM
the
cards,
oh,
everything.
mm,
The allowance, I'm afraid everyone doesn't touch the size. And what breaks my heart that in some local authorities, foster carers sign up, they're signing up, they're filling out the application form before they know the money.
yeah.
When does this happen? I can't fill out an application form for a job unless I know what the money is up front. But we're expected to do that.
This is
Then
so that we can give the children a fair chance. You cannot take a child out of, majority of our children do come out of poverty. And what we do is putting them right back in it.
that's exactly that. It's just gaslighting, isn't it?
Mm.
It is, and my friend said it last night, as I was drinking
Oh,
free.
you do it for your own children. Yeah.
Well, I was saying drinking 3 pints of orange juice and lemonade. It was that hot in the pub garden. But it's just this whole idea that the cost for any parent is a lot. That's what we were saying. For any parent, it's a lot. But for foster children, you have this if you are a good foster carer. You are generous. Good foster carers are generous and they don't count every penny. They
Mm.
want the child to feel like the children around them. They want them to have experiences of a good quality food, of nice experiences, of doing nice things. But it is a cost that comes out of our bank accounts. And I think this is just sheer exploitation. If they don't know that, they need to wake up and realize that.
Yeah,
If they do know that and
then
they
it's
let that happen,
exploitation.
then it's just sheer
Yeah, I
exploitation.
mean, also don't forget that children, normal children, I don't think that's a very good expression, but you know what I mean. They have,
Regular children,
but they have parents at work.
yeah,
So 65% of carers, it is their job. And
yeah.
then you get being told it's not a job, it's not work by the children's minister. And talk about want your cake and eat it and exploit the workforce you've got.
I mean,
Shall we bring it to a close there
we will
because
bring it
we're
to
so
a
strict
close.
with our time now, aren't we?
We are.
Because tune in next week because we're going to have part two of this, and we're going to be talking about the disposable status of the foster carer, the power imbalance, the hidden control nobody counts, and the fear, control, and silence, and why these conditions create the perfect storm of things for carers to be exploited.
Yeah.
So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me and to all our foster carers out there. Lots of hugs, lots of love. We really are so proud of you and glad that you're with us
Yeah,
and we're here for you.
definitely.
And keep sending us messages of what you would like us to focus on, because
Yeah.
that's how this works.
And
So
to the social workers, the managers, and the director, we know you're all hardworking. We know that perhaps you know, we know a lot of it, but we want everybody to join in, have their say. And please, can I just say one last thing? Please share the podcast as much as you can so that we can get the word out there.
brilliant. Thank you. You take care. Lots of
And
love.
bye. Bye.
Bye.